So this is like the first time that I'm shook by an AI song. I I don't know what to think right now if I'm being real. Anybody who follows me, listens to my music, knows me, knows that Underworld is one of my absolute most top favorite artists in the world, and moreover, they have so influenced my music, that I mean you can hear it oftentimes in my music, but it's my own music. But I'm in an Underworld group on Facebook, and someone posted this song, and I'm gonna play it because it's only a minute 41 seconds long, and I don't know what to think of this. I'm gonna play it, and then we're gonna talk real quick about it.
Silver, kind of water cold, silver, cold ripples. Tram rattles my teeth, red door open, slide. I slide across the cobbles now. Heavy boots on the bridge. Heineken on the table, Heineken on the table, Heineken on the table. Watching the bikes go past, watching the bikes go past, watching the bikes go past. Green glass, cold glass, green glass. Stumble, wet pavement shimmer, drunk, clapping at the tourist map. Fold it up and throw it, gone. The bells are ringing, ringing, low ceiling in the brown bar smoke. Bitter taste on my tongue, bitter, dark wood and the old ghosts. Heineken on the table, Heineken on the table, Heineken on the table. Watching the bikes go past, watching the bikes go past, watching the bikes go past. Green glass, cold glass, green glass. Under the arches, under the water, under the rain. Everything is liquid, everything is moving, everything is loud. Shouting at the night, shouting at the wind, shouting at the night. Heineken on the table, Heineken on the table, Heineken on the table. Watching the bikes go past, watching the bikes go past, watching the bikes go past. Green glass, cold glass, green glass. Walk faster than heartbeat, sound. Neon blue in the window, stop. The clock is ticking backwards. Wait, lost my coat in the alley. Found a reason to stay out late. Walk until the sun wakes. Water in the veins, water in the streets, water in the eyes. Keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Amsterdam, Amsterdam, Amsterdam. Green glass, green glass, green glass.
Okay, so I don't know entirely what to do about this, if I'm honest. It sounds so much like an Underworld song. And as someone who's been listening to Underworld for like the better part of my life at this point, if you played this for me and I didn't know that this was AI, and I know it's AI because the person who posted it says that there's this new free AI music service, and he says, I just let Carl sing about Amsterdam. It can, his text is garbled. It can any voice, any style, any text, and yes, you know Underworld pretty well. I mean, so I guess what he's saying is, he went into this application and told it, I guess, to make a song that sounded like Underworld. I went and I checked this service out, and I'll play for you in a minute what happened when I ran some of my music through it, and it was laughable. So I don't know. I assume that because Underworld is a much more well-known artist than myself, that this LLM, this large language model, has already, basically studied all of Underworld's music and managed to just emulate it. And what freaks me out the most here is how much these vocals sound like Karl Hyde from Underworld. It it sounds just like Carl. And even down to the lyrics, which it sounds like maybe he let the AI write. I'm really not clear. I've been trying to get information about this. You can see my comments here. I mean, my first comment was, "This is a massive disrespect to Underworld." I mean, that's the first thing that I said because I felt like, man, this is a massive disrespect to Underworld, especially if you love Underworld. And if you're in an Underworld group on Facebook, you probably love Underworld, But I I'm trying to wrap my head around this right now. I mean, I have been watching AI music production and all this stuff come up. And full transparency, I troll a lot of people who make music with Suno. I just do because it sounds it sounds like garbage to me. Like I can pick out an AI song most of the time because it all just sounds very straightforward and standard. Like the thing you need to remember about AI and LLMs is that they are digital yes men. Like that's what they are. Their entire purpose is to reach the goal that you tell them to reach. Now, how they get there doesn't always really end up being the right way, but that's what they do. Like that's their whole goal. AIs really don't like get an input from a user and then say like I'm not going to do that, you know. I'm like I'm sorry but I can't do that, you know, like in uh 2001 A Space Odyssey, you know. They don't really do that. They'll respond and say like I'm not allowed to do certain things sometimes and stuff like that, but this service Sun Auto is not a um it's not it's not a chat bot, it from what I can see. This is it right here. Because I went and I checked this out pretty quick. I was like, okay, I want to know what this is all about because I, you know, and like I say, I troll some Suno people. I can't help it. There's this entire warped mindset that I have seen from a lot of people who use Suno that is like this weird thing where a lot of them are acting like somehow they're the new tastemakers, like they were not being allowed to make music for apparently all of time. And then now, because Suno is here, they are allowed to have their time. And that somehow musicians like myself and other musicians, producers, whatever, have been somehow gatekeeping their being able to make music. And I just need to say real quick for the record that like that is not the case. That is very literally not the case. Like it's not. No one was gatekeeping making music from these people who are on Suno and prompting their music now. No one was doing that. No one was saying like you don't get to learn how to play an instrument, you don't get to learn how to produce music, you don't get to sing, you don't get to do any of this, I'm the one that owns it. No one was saying that. Legitimately, no one was saying that. The tools for making music are so democratized and have been now for a very long time. Honestly, the past 20 years has been the biggest growth and change in these tools being more available to people. But like, let's just face facts. Like, the ability to make music has always been there for humans in some way or another because you have a musical instrument built into you. It's your voice. You have another musical instrument built into you, which is your hands. You can tap on yourself, you can tap on another thing. Like, there's nothing stopping people from making music here in this world, except I think the laziness of not wanting to bother learning how to produce music or learning how to record or learning an instrument or anything like that. Now, the only caveat that I will put into this is that you know there are people who are differently abled who can't make music in traditional ways. You know, there are people who can't use their hands, they can't use maybe even any of their limbs or even their voice to create music. And I can see AI, generative AI music tools being useful to those people. Um, so this is where this thing gets really messy and weird, right? Like I do believe that everyone should be able to make music because I believe anyone can make music. Now, if we're talking about making music that is commercially popular and economically financially viable, that's a whole other thing. If we're going to talk about gatekeeping in the music industry, yes, there's been gatekeeping in the music industry for as long as it's been an industry, okay? This goes way back to the beginning of music first starting to be recorded and this is something that people could go out and study, but you know, it was very difficult for musicians who were actual working musicians to go out and record their music when it first started to be possible to record your music to wax cylinders. and things like that. And a lot of that has its roots in racism, everybody. I'm going to remind everyone of that a lot of these things have their roots in racism, and that is something that is always, I think, having to be gotten past. It's a dirty, ugly obstacle that exists in so many ways that I, of course, can only speak on so much being who I am. But it's something that I know about because I've studied the history of music production. And and yeah, it was hard for musicians, actual musicians, to get their music recorded way back in the day. And I'm talking way back in the day when music first was able to start being recorded. So much so that a lot of these musicians, generally persons of color, people of color, were writing songs for then white people to go and record, okay? Because people of color weren't able to go and record that music. So the gatekeeping started very early on. All right, we need to remember that the gatekeeping started at an early point, and it's always been that way because that's what money does. All right, so fast forward all the way through the history of recorded music, and there's been gatekeeping for a very long time. It's been difficult for people to be able to get their music heard by a lot of people, to be able to get popular, to make money off of their music, everything like that. And yes, it's still very difficult now, even with being able to produce all your music yourself or even make it with one of these AI tools and release it. Your chances of blowing up to extreme levels are still very slim, especially without putting some advertising money and other things like that behind your music. Okay, like it's slim. So if we're going to talk about the gatekeeping thing and people from Suno getting really upset about this, again, I get it, but their anger is misdirected. And that's a lot of what I see happening from people who are AI music producers. Is they're out there saying all this just total nonsense about like how they are now the ones who hold the keys to the industry. It's their time, and that is utter bullshit. That's utter bullshit. You could have started a shitty punk band a long time ago and played an instrument very poorly with some other people. And you know what would have happened with time? You would have learned, and everybody else you're playing with would have learned how to play that instrument better and to your own style. And you would have created music that was indicative of you, that was representative of you. Okay. And AI music is not representative of you. It really, it's not. Even if you, I see all these arguments for people who say, "Oh, it's so great because I'm a lyricist, but I don't know how to sing and I can't get anyone to sing my songs and I can't find a producer to produce my songs. So I use AI and it brings my amazing ideas to life." Well, I'm going to call bullshit on that because there's simple fact, you can hire producers off of the internet, guys just like me and very myriad other very talented people to produce music for you for very little money and do it in the way that you want it to be, all the way down to them finding vocalists who will sing your songs and all like you can do this. But AI is sort of introducing this whole laziness factor now that is just like, well, just type it and it's there. And I go back and forth with this a whole lot because I know that unfortunately AI, it's here to stay. Like it's here to stay. Let's just be real. It's here to stay. It's going to change, it's going to morph. There's going to be a lot of different shit that's going to happen with time. But like it's here because it was already here for a long time. It's just that now it's out in the open and we're seeing it. But it's been being built for a very long time. This didn't happen overnight, okay? So I think that it can be a tool. I have not used it for anything in any of the songs that I write, and I've written over 360 some odd songs at this point right now. And I've not used generative music AI to make any of that. In my mind, I make music because I want to do it. I want it to be something that is me, that's representative of me. And if I fuck something up, I want to just leave it there. I really don't care. I don't care about being perfect. AI is all about being perfect, and that is my problem with a lot of this. So again, I'm a little freaked out though because hearing this song that is an Underworld song, it's creepy, man. It's creepy. Like I would really want to know what Carl from Underworld says about this. And I think this will be, if it is published on Sonato, it will be taken down, and it honestly should be taken down because it just straight up stole Carl's voice. I mean, I doubt that Carl consented to this. His voice was used for this model, and I'm sure against his will and without his consent. And so, rightly so, it should be taken down. But what freaks me out is how much the production style of it sounds like Underworld. It sounds like Carl. It has the inflection of his voice. It has the feel of how he sings. This is a song that like I would expect to have heard on some of Underworld's semi like less popular releases. They did a series called Riverrun a number of years ago. They did a more recent series called Drift that I would expect to hear something like this on. Kind of like a quick one off, not too long song, just kind of a, run and gun, get it done kind of song. But it does freak me out. It freaks me out a little bit. So, you know, I did go to Sonato and started to do a couple of things. First, I told it, create a song that sounds like In Case of Revolution by Brian Bottkiller. And I told it that it should use my voice and production, vocal, and lyric style. Okay. And that was all I said. I didn't upload any of my music. And my test here was basically to see, like, has my music made its way into these LLMs? And I should basically figure that it has in some way or another. But again, because I'm not a mega popular artist, I don't think that as much time is going to be dedicated by these LLMs to studying the production style of my music. So what it kicked back is something that doesn't sound anything like me. Let's just play a little bit of it real quick.
Glass on the floor, I am thinking of the pieces till my fingers bleed. Heavy boots, heavy boots, heavy boots. Marching down the hallway where the wallpaper peels the spine of the street.
Marching down the hallway where the wallpaper peels. Okay. Like the lyrics are total nonsense. I didn't tell it to write these. The production part of things, I mean, I'll be real. It sounds good. It's agrotech EBM. It's got, yes, a 2010s kind of sound. Does it sound like me? No, it doesn't. I mean, like maybe a little bit, but not really. Maybe like some of my earlier work. And I'm not put off by that, but I was just curious, about what was going to happen. So anyway, that was one. Then there was another one that pretty much sounds the same.
This is not a drill, pull the lever down before the circuit dies. I have tear the mast away, tear the mast away.
Okay, so whatever. I'm not going to play all this. Something that is interesting to me is I've done this on Suno before where I told Suno to generate a song that sounded like me, like Brian Bottkiller. And I've also told it to just generate songs before just because I want to know. I'm not releasing any of this music, but I want to know. You need to know how these things work, guys. If you're someone who makes music and actually makes music, you still need to know how this works because you got to know what you're up against, everyone. Like, you got to know. So, I've done this. And what's interesting to me, just as a quick side note, is that basically all the time, if you're doing something that's a little electro and harder edged, these LLMs always insert stuff in there about crawling through the wires and the circuits and the blazing neon lights and all of this. Like, it's really odd because I think that I mean, these systems are not sentient yet that we know of. But I think that it's kind of like the beginning of a little of that because they know in some way or another that they are like AI models. They know that. And so it's interesting to see them insert these lyrics into these things, which it did in this one, but it's whatever. It doesn't sound anything like me. And if I release this, people will be like, Brian, what happened? Like, why doesn't this sound like you? So and I wouldn't do that, but it's interesting to see what it does. So anyway, then I uploaded my actual lyrics to In Case of Revolution, the song that I did with John Fugler from Fluke and my good friends Lithochasm and Corrupt Frame. And I released this album a long time ago. And I uploaded it and told it to do whatever thing it is that it does. And anyway, it spit back some nonsense. Let's check this out. Okay, so what's funny there is that this is something it generated, and it's literally my song. Now, I should note here, I had at this point uploaded an MP3 of In Case of Revolution into the system to give it an idea of what I wanted it to create. And it basically just took it and just like did it and sort of added some light filtering and brought the vocals out, I think, a little bit, but it didn't do anything else. So I don't know what the deal was there. It doesn't really matter. Then it took another swing, however, and this is pretty hilarious.
To in case of a revolution that's in your face. Take a look around, no one is safe. And the luck minds are free from chains. Stand up for yourself and take up arms. Time to help the world free from harm. What you gonna doubt? Where you gonna run? Listen, your time for a revolution.
What? Like it just did a weird hack job of my song and like really horribly filtered it and dropped like what sounds like a weird mid-pass filter on it or something. And I don't know what the hell it was doing. Maybe I threw it for a loop with this, which is great. I love it when I break AI bullshit, which I've literally done. So, I mean, my name is Brian Botkiller. This is what I do. So apparently I pissed it off with that one because the next one it tried to generate, it just couldn't even do it. It failed. So that's pretty cool. But then there's one final one, which is this one, which again, at this point now, I only fed my lyrics into it. I did not upload my track. I removed my track. I left the lyrics on. I told it to have a strong lyric strength, style strength, whatever the hell this other stuff is. This is all complete fucking nonsense that in music production doesn't mean a goddamn thing. But this is, AI LLM bullshit right here. Lyric and style strength, duration control, enable extreme values. Fucking, I don't know what that shit is, and I don't really fucking care, okay? But I told it, sure, do industrial rock, agrotech, EBM, 2010s, dark electro, blah, 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 blah. And this is what it kicked back. Okay, sounds like a minimal techno track. Still minimal. Still. Okay.
Stand together, straight men awake. A dozen minds fighting what you seek. The true struggle was never a race, but now you know what to do in case. In case of revolution. 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 In case of
Okay, whatever. It's bullshit. It's trash. I mean, that sucks. It sucks. That is just garbage. It's like a really just piss poor vocal, voice model, just reading my lyrics. So, I can only assume that for one reason or another, it just could not understand either what I wanted it to do, or maybe again, I just pissed it off for something else. Which again, great. I love it. That's awesome. Maybe it's because this music of mine was produced and recorded before AI was even happening in music production. It just can't figure it out. I really don't know. But it couldn't kick anything out that sounded like me. And that was what I was curious about, was like, okay, like if it's doing this with Underworld, can it do this with anybody? And it didn't. And I assume that there are ones out there that could potentially, because you can model your own voice using some AI systems out there. You can model your own voice. And I imagine then you could take that and turn that into a model for sung lyrics and vocals. But again, if you're not a really well-known artist and I'm well known ish, but I'm nowhere near as popular as Underworld. I wish I were. I'm not. That's fine. If you're not a very well known artist, these models are not going to dedicate a lot of time to your style necessarily. So they're just going to spit out some generic garbage, which tells me that there's not a ton to worry about here still, but there is something to be worried about for sure about the fact that there's now yet another one of these music AI, generative AI systems out there that obviously just straight up ripped off the work of established artists and then can just crank out more stuff that sounds kind of like them, or using their vocal styles or their production styles in songs they're completely unlike things that they would ever do, which is not, that's not cool. Okay, like that's not cool because there's no consent. There's zero consent. All right, and consent I've known this forever. Everyone should know this out there, okay? Consent is mandatory, everybody, in all things. One of the things that is most frustrating about capitalism and the financial system that we are all thrown into from the very second that we are born is we have zero consent in it. Like we are just thrown directly into it. And we don't know what's happening with it until a certain age. And by then, we just kind of have to go with it. But there's zero consent already in so many ways. So, for a lot of artists, the way that they take back their power, take back their consent in this world is with their art. Because that's the way that they say, this is me, this is what I stand for, this is who I am, this is what I do, things like that. And um, when something does that without your consent, that is extremely nefarious because it means that music can be generated and created to sound just like a vocalist or another producer or anything like that, but in using their style in musical works that they wouldn't do, like using Karl Hyde's voice to, I don't know, do some country rock, America is so great bullshit or something. That I know. Like I wouldn't see Karl Hyde wanting to do that. If someone used my vocal style to record a right-wing friendly track or so, I would be pissed off because I stand very much against that as someone who's written and recorded and released a lot of protest music. So like I would be upset about that, and there's just a lot of things here that are so incredibly messy. And I know this has been a long video, but this is something that's been knocking around in my head for a long time. And when I saw this happen today, this was kind of like the last nail in the digital coffin. Like I saw it and I thought, holy shit, I gotta put something out about this. I gotta talk about this in some way or another because I've been thinking about it. I've touched on it a little bit. I've gotten into arguments with people about it and all this other kind of shit. And my stance on it right now is I don't really know what the hell is to be done about it. Because it's not going to go away. Major record labels are already buying into these systems. They're buying into Suno. They're buying into all of these other AI platforms. They're buying into them and basically licensing the libraries and discographies of music and musicians and artists that they own to these platforms so that they can better study that music and continue to create more music that sounds just like that. And the nefarious thing about that, everybody, okay, and this is something that you gotta know if you're gonna be a part of the music and the audio industries, all right? And I know this because I've been doing this for a long time. If you sign a record deal with a big time record label, you're likely not going to read that entire contract because there are record contracts out there that are stacked up this high, okay? And a lot of people don't read the whole damn thing. And generally, even if you do, you're not going to understand all of it. And one of the things that happens a lot of the time is that you essentially sell a large portion of your identity to a record label, to a third party. Okay. I've said this before, a record deal is just a loan that is collateralized against your art and your creativity. That's all that it is in the long run. This is why I tell people don't chase after record deals because A, they're very difficult to get. Again, if we're going to talk about gatekeeping, okay, it is very difficult to get a big time record deal anymore. It just is. All right. And B, do you really want to do that? Because you are going to end up selling a good part of your soul. All right. So that's going to happen on the first part of that. And a lot of times you're going to get a contract that's going to be some very nefarious shit. That's going to be something like 80% of all revenue goes back to the label, 20% goes to the artist, and that 20% has to be broken out amongst all of the artist's representatives. That means management and lawyers and associates and all these other things. Okay, that means that the artist gets barely anything from the music being sold, which music doesn't really sell that much anymore anyway. But you need to know this is usually how these deals end up going. And a lot of artists sign deals like that for a long, long time. And the only reason they could make it work was because going out and playing live was making them a lot of money and they were selling physical copies of music. Okay. Big time bands that a lot of us grew up on. I'm 45 years old, so I grew up in an excellent era of music, listening to a lot of artists and buying a lot of music in physical formats. Okay. And what used to be able to happen was that you were going to make some money off of that. The label was still going to make a shitload of money off of your physical album sales, but you were still going to make something because there was a lot more money coming in. All right. Albums were selling for anywhere from, $12 to $17 to 20 something odd dollars and more for the longest time. But this goes way back. This is not happening that much anymore, all right? So you got to figure that now in the age of streaming and digital consumerism, you sign a label record deal with something like an 80-20 split, you're not going to see any money. So you're going to have to be on the road all the fucking time and doing all kinds of other things in order to make music, or rather to make money from your music. That's what you're going to have to do, all right? Now take that to another level and look at artists. You probably hear all the time about artists that sell their entire discography to a label. Pink Floyd did it recently. Britney Spears, I think it was just announced today, February 25th, 2026. I think Britney Spears just sold her whole library of music. Offspring did it more recently. A lot of artists do this, and they generally sell it for, I mean, I've seen numbers that are in the low millions and up into the tens of millions and things like that. I think it's still not enough. I think the number for Pink Floyd selling their whole discography, everything they've ever done, was something like $30 million, okay, which is bonkers to me because this is like one of the most iconic bands in the history of music. To hear that they would sell all their music for that is kind of sad. All right. But like, this is what happens, everybody. This is what happens. Artists get older. They can't tour all the time. They still need money to be able to live. And they are past the point of being able to go and get some bullshit job to live off of. Music was all that they knew. So they have to sell their libraries. So they sell their library. And I'm getting to my point here. They sell their library. You have to know something. When you sell that library to a label or something else, it ain't yours anymore. Okay. You don't get to decide what happens with that music at that point. So if a record label decides that they are going to, I don't know, take the libraries of music, the discographies that they have bought from musicians, lease them out, license them out to AI companies and say, go ahead and train your LLMs all you want off of this, they can do that because they own everything to that music. They own all the rights. They own the publishing rights. They own the songwriting rights. They own every bit of that song that is the kind of stuff that you end up usually having to go out and talk about, or rather register in a performing rights organization like ASCAP, EMI, et cetera, okay, where you have to have the performer and you have to have the publisher, all right? But these record labels, when they gobble that up, it's all theirs. It all goes in the same bucket. Unless you work a real unicorn of a deal and you sell all the rights to your music or even sign an early record deal early in your career, you might sign one that still gives basically all the rights of the records that you release while on that record deal directly to that label. A lot of bands have run into this in the past where they have had to later on go to court and sue and pay money to buy back all the rights for the music that they released on a label because the label owns all of it. Okay. It, I mean, one of the most famous ways that this went down was Taylor Swift recording Taylor's versions of songs that had already been released on a record label because she couldn't get the rights back for those songs. Okay. She couldn't get them. This is Taylor Swift, a musician who is worth literally over $1 billion at this point. All right. She just had to record her own versions again. Now, that's kind of a different thing, and that's pretty extreme, but that is what you're looking at. Okay. And so now we have to take this to the next level, which is these big time record labels like Warner, Sony BMI, etc., right? And there's not a lot of them anymore. They've all done so much consolidation. They're all just really little conglomerates to very big conglomerates at this point. They can take this music, they can lease it out to these AI platforms, and then these AI platforms can start creating models that really eerily mirror and mimic these popular musicians. And this is something that's already been happening for a while now. People have been creating songs where it sounds like it's Michael Jackson singing and it's not. It sounds like the Beatles and it's not. Like, and there's been a whole legal gray area, and people thought for a long time, musicians thought for a long time that what was going to happen was that these labels and these AI companies would end up getting sued into oblivion. In theory, they might get sued into oblivion by the labels. Nuh-uh. What did the labels do? They go and they cut deals with these platforms. Why? Because there's millions and millions and millions of people using them. I mean, there are. If we look right now at Sonato, which is a stupid fucking name, but like, look at this. Okay? Like, these staff pick songs here have 20,000, 9,000, 5,000, 25,000 plays. Okay? Like, this is kind of crazy to me. And this bullshit probably came out, I don't really know, not too long ago, I would think. This was just posted January 17th, and this shit has 20,000 plays. Okay, I'm not even going to listen to it. I have no interest. The image alone turns me off. But, like, keep in mind that the average person releasing music on Spotify and all the other streaming services out there won't see 20,000 plays for their music for potentially years. Years. Even if they spend a lot of money to market that music, they won't see that happening. They won't. All right. I, to this day, have only gotten across all streaming services, not counting Bandcamp and my own little things that I have, but Spotify, Apple Music, etc. I have amassed about 650,000 streams of my music. That sounds like a lot. You would say to yourself, wow, holy shit, that's getting close to 1 million. Cool. That's great. That's a fun feather in the cap. Do I have any money from that? No. I very literally have no money from that. I very literally have zero money from that. Okay. And it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to see money from that. And most artists aren't. So, my closing thought here, and this is where I'm leading to, is that most artists already are not going to see any money from releasing music in the semi-normal way. And this isn't really normal anymore. It's all a total big mess. But most artists aren't ever going to see any popularity, any money, any sort of like recognition from releasing their music unless they are putting a lot of money behind it to market it. And then they're usually just spending money for kudos, for a feather in the cap, to be able to say like, oh, I got 10,000 plays on Spotify. I got 20, 30, 50, 100,000, whatever. So fucking what? It doesn't matter. There's no money from it. Okay. You're spending money. If I spend money to drive plays to my Spotify, you bet your ass that I put something in between that person getting to Spotify that asks them for their email, because them playing my music on Spotify is not going to get me a goddamn thing. So take that to the next level now with these AI models being able to just crank out millions and millions and millions of songs and potentially make them sound like already very established artists who actually did the work, who actually recorded it. Karl Hyde has been recording music for a very long time, over 40 years. This man has been making music. Underworld is one of the bedrock bands of electronic music, of progressive house, of progressive techno, okay? And he did the work. Rick Smith the other producer, the other member of Underworld did the work. They sat down and they made this stuff happen. They recorded it. They worked their asses off. They released it. They toured it. They did more, and they just kept grinding and doing it. And now these platforms are coming in and saying, cool, thanks for all that work. We're going to go ahead and give all of that to a bunch of people who don't want to do any work at all in any way, shape, or form. We're going to give this to them and let them create songs that sound just like you just by typing some stuff in. That it's fucking scary. It's scary. And it is not something, again, that I have an answer to. It's not, and I wish that I did, but I don't think anyone is going to, because not that's going to be definitive, because there's going to always be people that are going to say, well, this is the future, get on board. There's always going to be people that are going to say, this is not the future, I hate this shit, I am not on board. And then there's going to be people that are going to be in the middle saying, I don't really know what to do. And that's going to be it for I don't know how long. And like I say, like, this is something that even I don't really know where to go here. Part of me wants to say, like, this is absolutely horrible and the guillotine should be dropped on all of it, because it's going to just already further cheapen music, which has already basically been cheapened to the point that it has zero value. This is why shows cost so much. This is why tickets to live shows are so fucking expensive. I mean, there's other factors, but one of those reasons is that, like, that's very literally one of the only ways that musicians are making music or making money anymore from their music, guys. That's it. They're not making money by selling music, and they're not making money by getting streams off of Spotify or anything else. They're not. They got to sell merch and they got to play live and they got to hope that they make enough money off of that. And you have to remember that these are people who have put everything into that music, so they can't be doing other things to make paper in order to live every day. Okay. And so for these models to take advantage of those people and the hard work that they did, that's pretty fucking nefarious. All right. So, yeah, there's the part of me that says, drop the guillotine on it. This is horrible and this needs to stop. There's the other part of me that knows that this is one of these things that just is going to keep happening. So we gotta know what's happening. Like, you gotta know your enemy. Okay. So I'm not going to tell you to go and make music on Suno and give up on recording music and producing music, singing, playing a guitar, drums, bass. Don't do that. Keep making music as you, as a human being, because there's one thing, no matter what, the AI tools and the people who are making music on them are not going to be able to do, and that is play that shit live. Okay? Like, they're not. Like, they can roll out with a laptop and play it, and that's fine. I don't give a shit. I've seen people play sets in front of very large crowds with a laptop and a microphone and kick some serious ass. I have done it myself. I really don't give a shit about that, okay? But if we're talking about people that are going and prompting their music and they're not going to sing in any way and they're not going to be able to do it live, what's a full stop then, okay? They can put that shit out on streaming, they can put it out on the internet and whatever else, and they can pat themselves on the back for getting 25,000 plays or whatever else and all these other things. They can do all of that. Like, I've seen a lot of these Suno people do, where they're like, oh, I'm so great right now, I've got 100,000 plays and I'm just releasing music like crazy and no one can stop me. Fine, man, great, go off, enjoy. But there's something you're never going to be able to do, bro. You're not going to be able to play live. You are not going to be able to engage directly with other human beings with your music in a way that makes them get goosebumps on their arms when they hear that song, because there's no soul in it. There's no soul, very literally. Okay. Music, when created in a way that means something to the person who is making it, has a soul. And that is something that is very important. And that's why music is important. And I just gotta say, like, we gotta watch this. We gotta see where this goes. We've got to stand up for the rights of musicians one way or the other, and for creatives in general. But we unfortunately also have to look at this and know that, like, this is the thing that we're up against, and it's not going to stop. So I don't know. I don't know. As I say, I had to do this. I had to talk about this. I hope it was interesting to somebody out there. I would love to hear people's comments, thoughts, everything like that about this little rant of mine, and, what your thoughts are on it. Um, and feel free to talk at me about it. Find me on social media, etc. I'm interested to hear what people think. And I'm going to be looking out now to see what else happens because it's an interesting and kind of scary time, everybody. So buckle up because it's going to get to be a whole thing. Anyway, I'm Brian Botkiller, and thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Take care.